Welcome to the Daily History Podcast, where we unravel the threads of the past to weave the intricate tapestry of our history. Today's episode delves into a dark and controversial chapter of medical ethics, the Tuskegee Experiments. Imagine, for a moment, the betrayal of trust in a place where care should be paramount. The year is 1932. The location, rural Alabama, and the stage is set for one of the most infamous medical studies in American history, the Tuskegee Experiments. This is a tale that will take us through the depths of deceit and the shadows of injustice. At a time when the ravages of syphilis were widespread, the promise of free healthcare from the U.S. government lured hundreds of African American men into a study shrouded in deceit. These men, sharecroppers by their trade, were unwittingly drawn into an experiment that would leave a permanent scar on the fabric of medical ethics. The Tuskegee Study, known officially as the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro male, was poised to last 6 months. Unbeknownst to the participants, it would span across 4 decades, its impacts reverberating even longer. The controversy that ensued from this study would cast a long shadow, challenging our understanding of medical consent and the vital importance of human rights in research. What began as a quest for scientific knowledge soon became a story of exploitation, one that speaks to the core of who we are and what we value in the pursuit of progress. As we delve into the historical context of the Tuskegee Experiments, it's crucial to first understand the scale of syphilis in early 20th century America. Syphilis, a devastating disease known since the 15th century, was running rampant in the United States by the 1900s. Known for its long-term complications if left untreated, the disease was a significant public health challenge. The prevalence of syphilis was particularly high among the poorest sectors of society, where lack of access to healthcare severely limited opportunities for diagnosis and treatment. However, it would be remiss not to acknowledge the racial disparity at play. African Americans, especially in the South, faced systemic obstacles in accessing the same quality of care available to their white counterparts. During this era, segregated healthcare facilities and a shortage of black physicians meant that African Americans often received substandard medical attention. By the 1930s, the United States Public Health Service could pin down syphilis as being especially common in the African American population of certain rural areas, such as Macon County, Alabama. It was within this context of inequality and distress that the Tuskegee Experiments found their foothold. In the shadows of the Great Depression, a time when America grappled with unprecedented economic strife, an insidious plan was taking root in the medical community. The year was 1932, and the United States Public Health Service teamed up with the Tuskegee Institute to initiate what was officially titled the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. Funded by federal dollars, the experiment aimed to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in black men under the guise of free healthcare services. Alabama's Macon County, predominantly populated by African Americans, became the study's recruitment ground. Researchers leveraged the area's widespread poverty and lack of access to medical services to their advantage. The recruitment strategy was alarmingly straightforward. Target the most vulnerable. Black sharecroppers, many with limited education, were enticed with the promise of something they desperately needed, yet rarely received: medical care. The criteria were clear. Healthy black men, ultimately revealed to be suffering from syphilis, were inducted into the study without their informed consent. As part of the recruitment pitch, participants were offered perks that seemed too good to refuse. The list included free medical exams, free meals on examination days, and burial insurance, a significant benefit for those who could not afford funeral expenses. Promises of treatment for their bad blood, a colloquial term used to describe various ailments including syphilis, created a facade of well-being and hope. However, unbeknownst to these men, they would not receive the proper treatment needed to cure their illness, becoming unwitting subjects of an experiment that would last for decades. It's in the folds of history where the darkest lessons lie, a sobering truth epitomized by the Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. Initiated in 1932 by the United States Public Health Service, the study aimed to track the natural progression of untreated syphilis in rural African American men who were told they were receiving free health care for what was described as bad blood, a local term used to describe various ailments. This deception was the cornerstone of one of the most infamous medical studies in American history. The researchers, devoid of consent from their subjects, withheld critical information and necessary treatment. Even after 1947, when penicillin became the standard and effective treatment for syphilis, these men were neither informed nor treated. Instead, the researchers continued to observe the ravaging effects of the disease on the human body under the guise of scientific advancement. The full extent of the deception began to unveil in the 1960s, revealing a shocking disregard for human life and dignity. The men enrolled were never told they had syphilis. Instead, they were given placebos, ineffective treatments, and even painful diagnostic procedures without any therapeutic benefit. The study, bizarrely enough, had little resistance within the scientific community at the time, with papers published and the experiment widely discussed. However, cracks in compliance started to appear as the study progressed. A Public Health Service venereal disease investigator named Peter Buxton came across the study and was appalled. He expressed his dissent in 1966 and again in 1968, but it was not until he leaked information to the press that public outcry ensued. In 1972, an article in the New York Times sparked nationwide outrage, which finally led to the end of the experiment that year. Notably, the experiment's eventual cessation did not come solely from moral awakening within the scientific community, but from public exposure and scandal. It stands as a grim reminder of the significant reforms in medical ethics that were desperately needed, reforms that were catalyzed in part by the collective national shock following the exposure of the Tuskegee Study's methodologies and its dehumanization of the men it preyed upon. In following years, formal apologies were issued and restitution was made to the survivors and their families, while the research's notoriety endured, continuing to serve as a profound cautionary tale. The Tuskegee Study, once unveiled to the public, left a permanent scar on the psyche of the American people. The immediate consequences for the 399 African American men who were misled and mistreated were catastrophic. Not only were they denied proper treatment for syphilis, but they also suffered the effects of the disease as it progressed untreated, leading to severe health problems and, in some cases, premature death. The study's revelation in 1972, after running for 4 decades, prompted widespread outrage and a deep mistrust of the medical community, especially among African Americans. This watershed moment propelled sweeping changes in medical ethics and research regulations. In the wake of the scandal, the National Research Act was passed in 1974, leading to the creation of the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. One of the Commission's most significant contributions was the Belmont Report of 1979, which laid down the ethical principles and guidelines for the protection of human subjects, including respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. The United States also saw the implementation of institutional review boards to oversee all research studies involving human subjects to ensure ethical practices are carried out. As a result of these reforms, new policies such as informed consent became a staple of research protocols, ensuring participants were fully aware of what they were signing up for and the risks involved. Yet, the shadow of Tuskegee continued to linger. It catalyzed a long-term shift in public trust towards healthcare providers and researchers, influencing the relationships and communication between patients and healthcare professionals. The distrust sown by this experiment is often cited as one of the factors contributing to health disparities and the underrepresentation of minority groups in clinical trials even today. The impact of the Tuskegee study extended beyond policy into education, with ethics becoming an integral part of medical training. Physicians and researchers were now more aware of the importance of maintaining patient rights and integrity in their work. This turning point in history was a brutal lesson, but also one that significantly reshaped the medical landscape in the United States and set new standards for patient care and ethical research around the world. As we reflect on the Tuskegee Syphilis Study, we unearth a disturbing testament of a time when ethical standards in medical research were grossly overlooked. Conducted from 1932 to 1972, this 4-decade experiment on African American men stands as a stark reminder of the weight of responsibility on the shoulders of those in the medical field. The legacy of the Tuskegee Experiments is a testament to the price human beings paid for progress that was neither ethical nor humane. Today, the scars of Tuskegee remind us not only of past wrongs, but also of the ongoing need for vigilance in safeguarding the rights and welfare of participants in medical research. The profound implications of Tuskegee's ethical breaches have reshaped our approach to medical research in the present day. It was a catalyst for change, prompting the establishment of regulatory bodies and the formulation of ethical guidelines, such as the Belmont Report in 1979. This crucial document outlines principles like respect for persons, beneficence, and justice, which now guide research involving human subjects. It has influenced policies, ensuring that consent is informed and voluntary, risks are minimized, and the distribution of benefits and burdens is equitable. Because of Tuskegee, the Institutional Review Board, or IRB, has become an essential part of research, meticulously reviewing study protocols to protect participants from harm. The Tuskegee Experiments' relevance echoes in contemporary discourse, reminding us that history's darkest chapters can illuminate the path to a more ethical future. It continues to serve as a reference point in debates over racial and ethical disparities in healthcare, highlighting the importance of trust between medical institutions and the communities they serve. As we forge ahead, Tuskegee's lessons underline the imperatives of transparency, accountability, and the moral compass required when human lives are at the crux of scientific advancement. Let it be known that the sanctity of human dignity must never yield to the pursuits of knowledge, and that those who partake in research trust us to hold this truth as our guiding star. Thank you for joining us on the Daily History Podcast. If this episode moved you or sparked your curiosity, we invite your engagement. Subscribe to stay updated with our explorations into history's most profound moments, and don't forget to comment below with topics you'd like us to explore. The suggestion with the most likes might just become our next deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning the past to understand our present.